Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Friday where it is reckless. There will be some reckless predictions going on, both for the season and for the game itself. It's here. Today is the freaking day. Finally, we'll get to talk about some actual real matches and stuff like that. We got close to it with the Palace game, but this is the real deal now. So there is no making up errors and stuff on this one. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, like I say, our season predictions. They're all entered on Discord now. I actually kind of like spilled the bean. We recorded as we're talking over here. It's about to go live. We did finally record the Rival Bros, so that's in action. Edip and myself talking United and Liverpool and Premier League. So I did spill the beans on the predictions there, but by the time that hits live, I'll be doing it over here. Gally's with us. What's happening?
What's happening, my friend? Good to see you. Normally it's like, hey, nice to see you again, but I just saw you Monday night. But it is a little different because I saw you in person for 24 straight hours. And you saw me basically doing laps and stretching like I had just played a 90-minute match because for some ungodly reason, the two of us decided to stand for a good 20 of the 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it actually helped in the long run. I think I felt better. It made the 4-hour train ride home a little stiff when I finally sat down for the first time. And then I fell asleep, but then you forget how much a train jumps every single time it stops. And there are a lot of towns you never knew existed in the state of Connecticut. I can tell you that for a fact by taking a train.
How many stops is that, by the way, by the time you get there?
What's that?
How many stops is that by the time you get there?
I think it was like 10 to 12, something like that. There's like a few periods where you go a long way, but there's a few times where you're only like moving for 8 minutes and then you stop. And the problem with train stops is people get on and off the train, which changes the level of anxiety. Is someone going to sit next to me? Because when I got on the train in Springfield, there was nobody on the train. And it was my first time ever taking this train. So I made the two biggest mistakes possible on an empty train. One, I did not find the quiet car, which meant that I became part of the daycare car. Two, I sat where I'd be going backwards the entire way instead of finding somewhere where I was like a seat going forward. And then the last mistake, which was probably the worst, was I sat on the sun side of the train when I easily could have sat on the shade side of the train. So I basically went 0 for 3. So
I mean, you can move once you sit down. Like once you realize, didn't you realize it's like 30 seconds in, I'm facing the wrong way?
So I realized that, but then I was like, I'm kind of comfortable and I don't have motion sickness problems. So like the going backwards didn't bother me.
Yeah, I would probably get that.
But I didn't realize about the quiet car thing until we got to like the 4th stop when a woman and her sister got on with 4 kids under the age of 5 and sat directly in front of me and to the left of me. So basically, I just had earbuds in and I just entertained kids with my crazy arm movements and like pointing at them and making faces because they were uncomfortable sitting backwards. So they stood and just stared over the seat at me like this. Like, imagine your 2 girls standing on a train like this and just talking to the guy next to him. And the guy next to him's like on his laptop acting like he's working. And my biggest fear was what I talked about. I was afraid I was going to have to sit next to someone if I moved my seat. And I had a seat where no one was sitting next to me, and I was insulated by the shrieking tears.
Yeah, that's basically covers. Nobody's gonna approach that area over there. But you throw your bag.
Then they got off. They got off in Wallingford. So, and to be fair, both the mother and the aunt were super conscious of the people and trying to calm the kids down. One of the babies, like, was literally a newborn. He started crying because I think his ears were popping on the train.
Yeah, that's a ride from hell, man.
But she was walking, like they did some people are like, F you, I paid for this ticket.
Yeah.
They weren't that way. So more kudos to them. They were good people, right? They were going to like you could tell it was like the last day of summer before these kids went back to school and they were all excited wherever they were going. So it was fine.
Well, you like learning experience. So next year's train rides, you'll probably do. But the good news is, on the way back, we didn't hit Canada, so we were able to go straight ride. So that was good. we managed to do that one. But yeah, good trip overall. Finally settling in. Still like going to sleep way too early for my regular thing, but I'm hoping over the weekend I'll catch up finally with everything. Because obviously tried to make the most of Monday over there on Sunday nights because Angie was there, so I don't want to like spend way too much time sleeping over there catching up. So throughout the week, a couple of hours at a time, it's been catching up. But what's not catching up is where we are in the GoFundMe to the totals over there. So we still need help. The Q coders right there. I'll throw the link shortly over here as well. We're at 920, I think I last saw. Let me take a peek right here. Yes, we are 920, which is 66% of goal. But obviously the silent auction is going on till tomorrow night. So this will go on till tomorrow night. So we have a whole full day, a match day in front of us. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to our $5,000 over here and people won't let us down. So $5, $5 is the minimum, I've been told. We were talking about like being able to throw a dollar in, but go to importance with that. 5 is the minimum. So $5.
Five's the new one, people. Five's the new one. You can't get a coffee for less than $5. You can't donate to our fundraiser either.
Exactly. So we'll get to the predictions. But before then, we finally have actual news. Fabrizio was happy to report news instead of rehashing some of the old stuff. They're still interested and stuff like that. So Ben Doak goes to Bournemouth. We're like, hey, why don't you guys take it easy today and we'll give you Bournemouth. So Doak will receive Otara, right? Who's going to join Brentford as replacement for Vissa. So the dominoes, that's one thing we'll talk about. I felt these dominoes are falling really too late. I expected all this to happen 2 weeks ago, and the season is starting. It's happening now, which I find odd. But 25 million for Ben Doak sounds more than fair and a good deal to me. What do you say?
I mean, it's brilliant business. I think we paid 500,000 for him. 500 grand. They just sold him for 25 million. The recruitment team's just brilliant. You know, we credited them a lot, right? With like signing thoughtful signings like Elliott, who might turn into 4 million, that turns into 50.
Yeah.
And now we have guys like Rio under 300,000. You have Trainioni, who I think was 800,000, getting them out of academies. The kid from Salford, Will Wright. And Ben Doak's an example of this. Like, you know, we swung and missed on Tierney, or not Tierney. I'm sorry. We swung and missed on, why can't I think of his name? Well, because he doesn't actually exist. The kid there that we got from the Scottish kid that never ended up making it, though we were Ramsey. We swung and missed on Calvin Ramsey. We thought that might be a great move. You know, this is really good business. There's always going to be people that will then come in with bad business. No club does immaculate business, not City, not Chelsea. But
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of risk involved, whoever you sign. So, here we go. I can do this. Well, we'll do this like 10 times. But yeah, any of the super chats and stickers go to the 23 Foundation this week as well. So, yes, thank you, Sir Z, for that. 3-0 win today. Sounds good to me. But I mean, yeah, any transfer is going to have some risk associated to it.
Of course.
But they've done well, especially the younger ones. But obviously, those you can take better risks at because they're low investments. I guess the big thing with Ben Doak, because I sense, like I look at the comments and stuff like that, the people thought there was a lot more potential and something would come off of it. I don't think anybody's sad about the total or anything like that. It just feels like people are just sad that that potential or what they expected would happen never happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think he never got a shot. You know, there was that preseason. People forget, right? I think people do forget that 2 years ago, Klopp's final season, or maybe the year before that, Ben Doak was used for like 15 minutes in the first match of the year to give Salah a rest.
Yeah.
And people were like, finally, we have a backup for Mo Salah. There's someone that's going to play, someone that's going to, right, like get involved.
Yep.
And it just never materialized. And then he goes out on loan. You know, he had flashes. Like his loan at Middlesbrough was very good at times, and Middlesbrough loved him. But again, he got injured. He's in that weird age range. I think a player of his age needs to be playing football if you can help impact football matches. And I think at a place like Brentford, it makes total sense. You got Semenyo out on the left. He slots in on the right. It allows them to play Tavernier or Kluivert behind Evan Nielsen. It gives them depth in the attack. I think if you're Bournemouth, you need to rebuild, and you didn't lose a lot of attackers, but Ben Doak is a very much a has a high upside for a club like Bournemouth, and if he does great, you could see Bournemouth still making a profit in a few years' time. And I think that's what makes this a really
Yeah.
smart signing by Bournemouth. So well done.
I think it's one of those where I think, like I say, there's disappointment that he didn't reach the potential everybody hoped. But you already, even this off season, you kind of look, because people were still like talking about it when we didn't sign anybody up top yet, as like in terms of like wingers and stuff. They're like, oh, maybe he's the depth and all that. But even then, Rio seems like higher up in terms of being close to being a regular than him. So it just feels like, I mean, like Saida says, it's probably a good decision for him, good for his career. I mean, we talked about this before. I mean, it's probably good for him as well. Could they have done another loan and stuff? Maybe. I just feel like at one point you're gonna have to. We've done this mistake before too, where we've done loan after loan after loan, and the value keeps diminishing. I think the kid still has potential. I didn't see the full details, so I don't know if there's a buyback or sell on
I think
or
it's a sell
anything
on.
like that.
I think it's a
Sell on
sell on
only.
plus. Sell on only. There's no buyback. And that to me lets you know that it's not just a feeling that maybe Slot doesn't see it or see the value in it. Because normally if you get one or the other. So you get the buyback because you're not really worried about the sell on. You know he's gonna
Yeah.
sell for a profit. So for me, this makes total sense. Smart decision. And it also probably indicates that, Hughes and Edwards like the value, like the commodity, but don't see a long-term plan for him.
Nick says Harry Wilson Ojo. Yes,
Good
exactly. I
point.
think that's a category of players, right? Like where you were like, that's a good group. We should just keep that as a big bubble and just keep throwing names in there, because you will have names thrown in there, because it takes a lot to be a regular at Liverpool Football Club. So I mean, some of those names over there, well, some of them have disappeared for good, but some of them are like talented kids like Harry and stuff. But you have to be at a certain level. And if we know you're never going to get to that level, might as well get the value, which is what they've done. So I think it's good business overall, good for us, good for the kids. And like you said, because it's pure profit for the most part, it's good for like the financial outlook and stuff like that as well. Ozan in the house. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Slowly getting there. So I think this weekend is where I'm going to be normal to my stay up till 2 a.m, get up at 8 a.m. kind of thing. Now I'm like literally passing out around like 10, getting up at like 7 and stuff like that. So slowly but surely we'll get there. There was Kevin says, to quote all my sources, you have already won EPL. And yeah, Nick was saying, when was the last time? Things that scare me is that the fact that we're like favorites, because it feels a little uncomfortable because we're usually not there. And it's been a long, long, long time. 94, 95, I think Nick was saying, sounds about right.
Sounds
So
about
it
right
does
to
make me a
me.
little nervous.
Definitely sounds right to me that 94, 95 shout. Somewhere in there was the last time we were title favorites to open a season, which makes sense when City has spent the way they have and have been a juggernaut. I mean, I think City has been favored 8 of the last 10 years, with the other 2 years being years that Chelsea were the betting favorites. Like even when Arsenal was strengthening, those years where they finished second when City came in first, I think City was still the betting favorite to enter every season outside of 2 years in the last decade when it was Chelsea that was the betting
Yeah.
favorite. Here's my thing with it. I think Liverpool and their supporters have grown accustomed to playing the role of the underdog. And I think Jurgen Klopp brilliantly manifested that even when we were spending big and bringing in big players. I do believe Klopp was a fan of being the underdog, selling that story both to his players and to the supporters base, right?
Yeah, I
I
think so.
don't think it was expectation. Like he wasn't trying to limit expectations. I think it was how he felt was the best way to rally the side. And I think so that's the absolute opposite. I think that son of a bitch likes to walk to a podium and be like, I told you we were here to win a league. We won a league. Now we're the hunted. And I hope you guys get used to this feeling, because we're always going to be the hunted, because I want to win
While
every.
Spot likes that, though, it's kind of like a huge adjustment for guys like I mean, I don't think Mo with his personality cares. I would think maybe Van Dijk with his personality doesn't care. And some of the other guys are like fairly new, but like for like guys like Robertson and stuff like that, who maybe, and that's the thing, like some of those buys at the time were players that we knew who would thrive under that, being the underdog role and like, like not being the favorites in a game and stuff like that. Guys like Robertson and all that. So it's kind of like a new era in that sense. I don't know if league quality is trending down. I feel like the gap is a lot less between teams. Like maybe there's like levels, the top level, but the middle is very close. And anything, I mean, that's what makes, I think, Premier League good, because in even if there's like levels in terms of quality. I'm getting some feedback on your end, by the way. Hearing myself back, which is not a good thing. But which is not a good thing for anybody. But no, I think what happens though in the Premier League, everybody has some quality where they can, even if they're not having a good game, they can make they have players to make an impact and like win a game, get some points and stuff like that. So I think that's like the biggest ordeal overall. I think we're good now. Hold on, let's see if your headset's being like PTSD.
Yeah, well, I put my earbuds in, so you probably
okay. Yeah, you're good. I think now. Okay.
Perfect. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's Nick was saying like the wealth gap. I think yeah, within that wealth gap, they're still wealthy.
I'm in between the two of you. Yeah, I think I'm in between the two of you when it comes to kind of Nick's comment about the like. I agree with you. It's a very, very competitive league. I think last year might have been the most competitive we've ever seen the Premier League. Felt like at one point any team from 10 to 5 could finish in those Champions League spots or at least make a run at it. I do think the spending by the big boys in the last 3 months, and by big boys, I mean Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Arsenal, and then to a lesser extent now United again, and even Spurs. Like, I feel like in some ways the PSR worries that a lot of clubs have, it pushed the high revenue clubs to really go for it again and try to buy their way back into the true big six. And I think the Newcastle summer of hell, the fact that Fulham hasn't signed a single player, Bournemouth looks like they've been weakened considerably. Brighton is, going into this year with their supporters up in arms. I still think it's going to be a very competitive league. I do kind of feel like we are maybe going back to a period where it's going to literally be the top 4, a separation, and then like 4 clubs vying for the 2 Europeans, the rest of the 4 European spots. So last year to me feels like a little bit of a microcosm, a little bit of a storm in a teacup. And I think this year we might go back to like more true form of top 4, and then everybody's fighting for the 5th. But thanks to everyone who's jumping in the comments here. It's great to see some new names popping back up. It's amazing what happens when matches come back.
Yeah, Nick is back in action for one. I knew Nick would be back. And Jimbo, like we haven't seen Jimbo in a long time. And Latif is with us from Turkey. Merhabalar. So we got going over here. Don't forget that fundraiser is still going on, by the way. So that Q code, you can scan it. You can go to the GoFundMe. You can bid on items on the silent auction. You can grab one of these shirts on the left-hand side over here. So this background, probably the last time we're going to use it until next year when we do this thing all over again. But everything goes to the 23 Foundation. So scan the Q code.
I'm trying to ruin my week.
What? No, I mean we'll be there. You're doing a live, not today. I don't think we're gonna be able to do it today. The Friday thing really throws a curveball, I think, for everybody over there. But if we do, I mean, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, so that if we do go online, you will get a notification that we are up and alive and well and watching the game over there. So we will definitely, we do blame John for this. Yes, that is correct. But yeah, we will be doing live watch alongs throughout the season this year. I know in the past we only did watch alongs for non-Liverpool games because nobody wants to watch me watch Liverpool, and you guys will see why fairly shortly, probably this season sometime. But because they've seen me, but it was like last year's games where it was kind of like felt like preseason. Nick was saying it earlier, the season was over back in freaking February. So let's get to the predictions real quick. without going into, we got Bicklers in the last second over there. We were the only ones who couldn't throw out the predictions because he had done his homework. I wanted to have him have the scene. Not to mention we had 2 minutes to kill before we completed the 24 hours. So looks like I have it on the screen. We're the last two to throw in on Discord as well. So the top four, we have Liverpool winning it. We both have City as second. You have Arsenal dropping to fourth. I had Arsenal third, Chelsea fourth. So we have the same teams in a different order. You're thinking when you put Chelsea ahead of Arsenal.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a little bit of a transitional year for Arsenal. I won't lie. I can see Nick had the same floor as I did. I want it to just be a little different and go with Chelsea second because I really like the business that they've done so far. And I think if a couple things break right for Chelsea, health, stability in their side, maybe, upgrading the one position I still feel is a weakness on their side, which is the goalkeeper. I think I would have put Chelsea second and been bullish, but still have Sanchez and the Colville injury. Both of those two things, coupled with, I need to see the gel. I need to see it all work at Chelsea and gel together before I can really go in. So I do think Arsenal struggles a bit. I think it takes a little bit for them to bet in. I know I'm in the minority here. I think they're going to actually miss Havertz at times, not scoring, cheap poachers goals, because that's what Joker is going to give them. But I think Havertz did a lot more linking up their play and bringing people together than he ever got credit. And I think people forget that before he got injured, with 4 months to go in the season, he was on pace to score 25 league and European goals, which isn't too bad last time I checked, for a big club like Arsenal that's already getting goals from elsewhere. So I think Arsenal takes a step back, though I do think Zubimendi is going to make their midfield a lot better. And I think more than anything, we're going to see an increase in Rice's ability to move forward and impact matches the way he did at West Ham, which I think could be good for Arsenal. But I'm going to stick with Chelsea in third, Arsenal fourth, and City just looks like City, and they'll probably make another move or two. It's starting to sound like if Rodrigo leaves Real Madrid, he's going to City. And I think that could be a really good signing if Rodrigo ends up at City feeding into Holland. So I'm going to go City
initially
second.
they will, in the long run, I mean, it's a long marathon. So I do think over time, City will put it together a lot better than like Chelsea will, for example. And I think that's like the only thing. I don't know if Chelsea can keep those performances going throughout the season. I don't think they are there yet. Kevin says, please donate now or I'll have to send you a Galatasaray shirt. And nobody wants that piece of shit. So nobody wants to rag. Jimbo wants all black shirts from there, which is fine and dandy as well. But yes, either way, no one has donated during the show so far. I can see it right here. So hit that link, donates, do the 5, and then I'll shut up the rest of the way. No, I probably won't, but still do the 5 either way.
Don't forget all the great items in the silent auction too. I mean, we got autographed jerseys. If you're a Luis Diaz fan, could be your last opportunity to get one. We got a James Milner jersey in there. I mean, there's a McAllister jersey, some books, and to be honest, the item, in my opinion, that has not gotten the most love or enough love, and maybe I shouldn't talk about it because it's a bit I'll probably throw in, are the Prince by Abigail Rudkin, a very, very talented Liverpool artist. And in my opinion, maybe we haven't done a good enough job promoting those items. So I wanted to make a point to mention it today. Definitely get in there. Check out that silent auction. Don't wait till the last minute because Matush or Kyle will just go in there and outbid you.
Yes.
So
honestly, the
get in
coolest
there.
item, because I've seen it in hand over here as well, sitting right next to me, donated by the Edmondson Group, is the Allison Becker
The Allison glove.
That thing is
Any
freaking
keeper.
sweet in the frame and everything. It is really, really sweet. And right now it's at $151, which I think is pretty ridiculous. McAllister, I mean, there's a kit signed by Trent, Milner, and Divock only at $120. Knowing the freaking jersey is that basically, if you go to the store, that seems awfully low. So there's a lot of like deals to be had over there. I know some people are just for the deals. I had a conversation with someone like that in one of the Facebook groups. The ultimate goal is obviously, all joking aside, yeah, grab a good deal, but more importantly, everything basically goes to the foundation. So Nick, you should have donated that
Nice.
to us. We could have auctioned it out. No, I'm just kidding you.
That's a hell of
cool
a that's a
That
hell
is
of
a
a
hell of
memorable item. That's awesome, Nick.
Okay, let's go
Congrats.
back to relegated sides. We're dead even. 3 up, 3 down, we're saying. I guess I will ask you this. One who's Sunderland. No, I'm just fucking with you.
Oh,
but no, if one of them survive, who do you think survives?
Sunderland? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, to be honest, Sunderland has bought everything under the sun, so I guess I didn't think they could also buy an end. It's probably what it came down to. I will say if any one of them survives, it's Leeds. I saw a weird metrics where they rated all the teams, I believe, in the last 13 years to come up, and they used like average age, like ratings, metrics, like goals involved, expected goals against, all these things. Sunderland, or this Leeds team, is the highest team of any team to come up in the last 13 years, mathematically, on having a argument to stay in the league.
Oh, gotcha.
But my problem with that is always the same as when someone says, I want to fire this manager. And I say, who are you bringing in? They go, I don't know. That's not my job. And in this situation, I think, well, I'm not going into Leeds getting into Europe, but I appreciate that confidence, Sergi.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at
gonna
Sergi's predictions. He probably has Leeds.
No,
relegated at the same time.
He's taking the piss out of the guy from freaking Oregon who joined us and tried to talk Leeds into the top 4. I'm gonna go. This is my problem. If I tell you Leeds is staying up, I have to tell you someone who's going down. And I don't know why this is. Maybe it's just because I like being a contrarian. I do not want to jump on the Brentford is going down, because I think they have an infrastructure at the club, and I know Frank's not there anymore. And anytime everyone universally bags on something, I want to go the opposite direction. And everyone has bagged on them hiring that guy, and I just want it to work. So
You're just trying to will it to work. But if,
exactly.
Like you said, Leeds, if somebody is going to be taken down.
Wolves, and if it goes really bad from the start, I think Wolves and West Ham could get sucked into this battle. I think Iriol is too good of a manager, and I think Brighton has too much talent. I've seen some people say Bournemouth. I don't see it happening. So I'll go Wolves, West Ham, finishing 17th, 16th. And they are your only hope. Like if Leeds is sitting there going, who's our only hope? I'm going to say it's Wolves or West Ham. What about you? If one of them stays up, which one stays up?
I think Leeds as well. And just because they have more of like going away to Leeds is going to be trickier regardless, right? And I think that's what they have going. And I think if somebody is going to get pulled down, I would think it would be Brentford right now. I know what you mean. Wolves are a good shot. I have faith in my boy Vitor Pereira over there in terms of like keeping them up, and I think they do still have some players there. But I think changing the manager and losing a lot, especially if they lose Wissa as well, that does not really help, losing a lot of your firepower. I know they have like Schrader and they have what's that kid's name? Thiago? Is that what his name is? The guy they
and they just signed. Yeah, it is. Thiago is there and fit, and they also have Shada still, and they have Damsgaard, and they signed Dango Ouattara today from Bournemouth. So they do have a replacement that they feel confident. I think
to replace Ouattara,
he can play the middle, but I think Thiago's going to start. I think the plan last year was Thiago was going to start and Wissa was going to be off the bench.
Yeah.
But let's be real. It's losing Mbeumo. And the fact that they lost Mbeumo and they're going to start Fabio Carvalho in his place today probably lets you know they still need to strengthen.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's like the biggest thing over there. Is Costas going to Leeds or Forest? Because that could affect those predictions. Yes. But last I saw was Forest. But nothing is official, obviously. But for those who we spent 40 minutes talking and thinking there was going to be 3 left backs left, yes, shout out to you guys. Okay, Golden Boot.
So I went with the boring one. I know I put the little yawn emoji next to it.
Yeah.
I'm going with Erling Haaland. I love Mo to score a lot of goals, but I still expect Isak to get over the line. I think Verts eats into some of those goals that Soboslai didn't. I think Ekitike eats into some of those goals. So I'm going to go with Erling Haaland getting back because he is and will remain City's number one option at all times. And I think at some point this year, City gets back to one of those 8 matches in a row runs where they average 3.5, 4 goals. And I think Erling Haaland usually gets 2.5 of those every time it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, Holland is. That's why I try to go different, and I went with Mo. And I know, yeah, it's especially if Isak comes in, even without Isak, I think he's going to get a
Oh,
ton of
and AFCON.
assists. Oh,
And
there's
and 6 matches
AFCON too.
during AFCON.
Yeah, I did not think of that. Yes, that did not configure into my calculations. I really thought his goal contributions this year are going to be up the roof. And if you do get an Isak, I do feel he gets a lot more space now, with people worried about Isak and Wirtz. So I think he will go there. But yeah, the AFCON thing can throw a curveball. But I'll go to the homer route and do Mo. Golden Glove, we both have Raya. I mean, mine is more than the goalkeeper himself. It's just the way Arsenal plays helps them keep more clean sheets than whoever is playing for Liverpool and City and stuff. Are we on the same page with that? Is that why you
Yeah,
picked?
I
That's
think
not why I picked them, but
I think Raya gets the Golden Gloves, and part of that is I think that Arteta's afraid to come out and he sets up to win 1-0. And as much as people say that's going to change, I want to see it change before I believe it. So, David Raya gets the Golden Gloves, and you might as well share one of them with Arteta because I think his tactics help lead to that. I do have a hot take for you, though, and I'll drop it here. I think over the next 2 years, Kepa is going to push Raya for the number one job at Arsenal. Like, I genuinely think that Kepa is going to,
it
at
is
some
something like
point,
Arteta would do.
well, and underlying numbers last year, Kepa was the third best goalkeeper in the Premier League, and he has improved year after year since getting away from Chelsea. I just personally think no football supporter can actually like justify his actions that day at that League Cup as a 19-year-old kid that refused to come off the pitch when he was injured. And that final or whatever, the knockout game where he showed up the
Yeah.
manager and he wouldn't get, and then he got in a fight. I swear people have struggled with that. I think Kepa is one of those guys who is a victim of his price tag. It wasn't his fault. Chelsea spent 40 million too much on him. But I do think he was one of the best young goalkeepers, and I think he's gotten better and better. I think Iriola made him better, and I think that Arsenal defense will make him look even better at times. And I think at some time, people will realize that David Raya's hero saves a lot of times are because he's weak in the air and out of position. So I actually think Kepa will eventually become Arsenal's number one. I don't know why, and maybe it's just me trying to have something for Matoush to take receipts on, and either me to take a victory lap or get a whole bunch of laughs at me, which normally is the latter. But I'm gonna that's my big hot take for this shout out.
Yeah, I don't doubt that Kepa would be able to get a sniff at it because that's how kind of like Arteta rolls, kind of a thing, like trying to do something
Or
out of the box or whatever. I just don't like that part. I agree with the Kepa parts as a goalkeeper. I don't agree as much with, and not because of the past or anything like that. I think he's so prone to making an obnoxious mistake. Just look at our game last season, for example, like the away one, like where he's just like caught in the middle of nowhere, the goal that Diaz scores and stuff. It's just like I would
there's
not trust.
definitely he's got some warts for sure. There's something about Raya. I feel the same way. I feel the same
No, no,
way
no. I
watching
get you. And
Raya.
that's why I think, something happens. Arteta will, it's kind of like playing You'll Never Walk Alone in the practice. Like he'll be like, I'm going to do something out of the box. I'm going to throw this guy in there, refresh the team
Or
or something like that until Kepa makes a mistake and then it kind of like blows up. But, best signing. You went with
yeah, I
Veer,
mean,
which I was
I
tempted
did.
to. I went with Joe Pedro. And I think the reason, same thing, I think we're going to have the same conversation probably in the next one. We'll do the best signing and the biggest flop at the same time because the reasons I might disagree from yours is due to the circumstances. Both with Wirtz, and you have Sesko as the flop, and I have Joe Pedro and Gyökeres as the flop. My
Yeah,
reasoning is like a guy like Sesko, for example, even if he does not do well, I don't know if he would go back and look at it as a flop because it is United. The bar is already very, very low. Same reason I feel like even if Wirtz has like a really good season, it would be hard for him to show up as the signing of the year just because one, he's already coming with huge expectations because of the price tag. He's coming to the title winner. You know what I mean? Like the circumstances he's walking into, same thing as like Sesko walking into. Even if Sesko is bad, he just has to be as bad as Hoyland not to be considered like a huge flop, for example, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think the price tag changes that and expectations. I think that, I think there's big expectations at United. I really do. I think they feel like they are making major strides at getting back into like European competition, if not Champions League spot competition. Like I think they can finish that high. I think if they had a keeper and get Baliba over the line, they might have some reason for that optimism based on the business they've done. I was never a big fan of Sesko. I like the player. I've seen him at Leipzig. He's never jumped out off the page at me that said this guy can do the business. As much as I have doubts over Gyökeres being a golden boot candidate or the level that some Arsenal supporters are trying to make him out, which is funny to me, seeing that they spent the entire summer telling me that Sesko is better than Gyökeres until they decided to move for Gyökeres, and
Yes.
now they think Gyökeres is the best thing they've ever seen. And same with United, by the way, who only wanted Gyökeres for his time with Amorim, and now Amorum's trying to tell everyone Sesko was his first choice. I always love that shit. When I did best signing, I did not take price club into it. I think Wirtz is going to have statistically the most impact. I think Wirtz is going to be the most talked about on the club that is the most relevant. And I believe this Liverpool side is going to be better than last year. I don't know if they'll get more points. I don't know if they'll win by more, but I think by the end of the year, they're going to be better than last year. And I think in a lot of ways, because the attack has changed so much, Florian Wirtz is going to get an awful lot of that attention. And I think that's what's going to lead to the masses believing he's the best signing. I also think he's the best footballer to move teams this summer in
Yes.
all of Europe. So how can I say that and then not pick him as the best signing? So that's my 2 cents on it. But I like your João Pedro shout. My problem with Pedro is same reason he's not in my stupid fantasy team that's over here on this monitor, just staring at me with like disdain and anger that I'll have by Sunday night when it needs to be completely ripped up and thrown away. Is João Pedro's going to play a lot of 60-minute matches, and then you're going to see Delap come in and finish matches. And I think at some point, Delap scores a few goals here or there. And before you know it, he gets a few league starts. Pedro starts playing. I think they're going to be 60-30 guys. And I just don't know if you're getting split 60-30 by your manager, can you be the best signing of the year in a league that, most great players play 90 minutes for their big club. So I'm going to say Wirtz. I could be easily wrong there.
I mean, I hope
don't
not.
think I will.
Ozan says hands down Florian Wirtz flop, and there was a couple of these in the Discord channel as well as guesses, and Buemo as the flop over there. Nick is putting Frimpong as the best signing.
Not a bad shout.
Not a bad shot, just because I think it goes back to kind of like my theory on he's not getting the most attention right now as like one of the newcomers. I mean, especially if Isak thing happens, by the time you get to Frimpong as the new guy, it gives the kid a lot more chances to basically do his thing. And I think when Mo is at AFCON, if you do not lose a step and Frimpong steps in and has like a great right wing month and a half over there, that definitely puts him to the top, because just the value alone that he can play the right back and the right wing and stuff like that. Manager of the year, we both have the slot signing over here. My only debate with that was we were talking about with my brother. I don't know if he even winning back to back, they would give it to somebody else who had a huge jump. That was the only thing. Otherwise, I think if you win the title, especially if you win it well with like the changes and stuff like that. Last year's challenge was no changes. This year, winning with changes. So it seems like the easy pick if Liverpool win the title. But I can see somebody showing up and them wanting to mix it up and picking somebody who maybe made like a unexpected Europe run or something like that.
The only way I could see it happening, like there's a couple clubs maybe. Let's say Spurs, everything clicked right. They figured out the, defensive frailties. They make a couple more signings and they jump all the way into like guaranteed qualification for Champions League. Like if Tottenham were to be top 4, I could see journalists talking themselves into, well, the difference between last year and this year was Ange and Thomas Frank, and therefore Thomas Frank deserves it. Like,
yeah,
I genuinely believe if Forrest finished 3rd last year, Nuno would have won it over Armstrong, even though he won in his first year. I genuinely believe they would have gave it to Nuno if he qualified for Champions League.
I think so too.
As an example. That's
if
kind of
they didn't collapse, if he didn't collapse, and that's the only way. Yeah, I can see it's like somebody like that making a run and actually finishing it off, kind of a deal. Frimpong has arguably the biggest shoes to fill. Yeah, if you look at Liverpool right now, maybe yes, but I don't know if a lot of people are. I think everybody realizes that we're getting a totally different player, and not comparing him to Trent. I will, because he tracks back. But aside from that, like not a lot of people are expecting to do the same passes and stuff like that. What he brings in attack is totally different than what Trent brought you.
He definitely has potentially the biggest shoes to fill when it comes to the actual way to put it. When it comes to the skill set and the importance in the side, if you thought he was going to have to replace the output. But I think Wirtz is basically being purchased to replace a lot of that creative output, where I would argue what helps Frimpong is that universally the majority have basically turned their back on the old number 66. So they're all so excited for Frimpong. I actually think Frimpong could have an absolute howler, fall asleep at the back post, and someone could knot in a header today. And there'll still be people online being like, well, he still defends better than Trent. Because they're just still angry and bitter about what happened with Trent. That I think in some ways that helps Frimpong settle in, similar to like Kirkes. Kirkes could absolutely throw in a stinker. And you'd be like, well, Robbo wasn't fit and the option was Simicast. So Kirkes all day, right? Yeah. Like when you add in the emotion of who the other player is. So it'll be interesting.
Let's do this over here because Gordon, because we had this conversation, will it take $1 to shut me up or $5 to shut me up? $5, he's trying it, but he won't shut me up. We're up to $9.25 in this fundraiser now. And Dara is in the house. Dara, where you been, man? But yes, if you missed the chance to sponsor the Podathon, which obviously was last weekend, you still have a chance to kind of help us raise funds for the grand total through the silent auction. And I just threw the link in there for the GoFundMe. And yes, Nick Gordo says, I just bought 2 shirts too. So yes, you can also, if you scan the Q code, the link will take you to our fundraiser shirts as well, that you can, hold on, I'm going to have to kick Gally out for a second. Well, I kicked everybody out for a second. There we go. They're on the left-hand side right there, those 3. The Q code will have the link for that. That will take you there. So hop on, 925, 66%. The goal was 1,400 for that portion of the fundraiser. So do help us get there. Every $5, $10 goes a long way. Link is in the chat right there. So let's go back and finish this off over here and do a quick preview. Oh, this is a good one. First to be fired. I was going between these 2 names myself because yours says Head says Farke, Hart says Scott Parker. I went with Scott Parker just because I feel like Lee's, like I say, Lee's is the only one that has a shots for me in terms of staying up. So what is your final decision? Who wins, the Head or the Hearts?
Well, I mean, it's always, trust me, when you're as passionate as I am and as stupid as I am, it better be your heart because your head usually is wrong. But I am going to go with my head, and the reason it actually is why I think that the first manager fired is Daniel Farke, and I think that is why Leeds have the best chance of staying up because they'll switch to a different manager at some point with a better chance of staying in the league the earlier they get rid of Daniel Farke. So I'm going to go Daniel Farke, and part of it is that I think Leeds have the tougher start between Sunderland and Burnley. Burnley's is pretty tough. Sunderland's probably a little bit easier. They play each other in week 2. I think that's a godsend. Burnley's got to get points in that second match at home against Sunderland. You start not getting points in those types of matches early on in the season, you could be in trouble. But I'm going to go here. Daniel Farke first to be fired. Scotty Parker, it won't be long after. And there will be this skinny Italian kid from Massachusetts rooting for it to happen. All right, let's be real. He's already rooting for it to happen.
Yes, you are already rooting for it. But I'm going with Scott Parker right off the bat. I think he is the one to go. Player of the year, you went with Wirtz, which makes sense because you did making the best signing. I went with Mo. I just feel like his goal contribution numbers are going to be obnoxious again this year. Starting with today, Mo loves a season opener. So let's get to today real quick. I think the whole McAllister and Gravenberg situation pretty much fills out the starting 11. Are we all in agreements? In terms of midfield, we go with Jones, Szoboszlai, and Wirtz.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question in the midfield. I don't think there's any question up top. If you ask me, honestly, the only question on the entire pitch is whether Robertson gets I'm the veteran at this club. I have leadership. Diego Jota was my best friend. And I'm not sure we want to put a hot-headed kid who maybe every once in a while looks like he's out of position or maybe makes the wrong run, the wrong decision. You couple the emotions at the stadium, the first match of the year, and he's playing against his former club. Those scream, I could get a rash red card in the 43rd minute, diving in on a tackle. And personally, I would like to see him get 60 minutes from the bench, watch it unfold. And then regardless, I bring him in for a 30-minute run out so he gets the jitters out of the way and he gets an opportunity to kind of bet in at Anfield, take in You'll Never Walk Alone and not be standing out there staring at everybody. I think it would be really smart to have Kirkes on the bench. I also thought at the Charity Shield, that bench looked a little toothless. And I kind of like the idea of if you needed a goal or you needed some attacking threat to bring Kirkes in off the bench fresh to start attacking Adam Smith on the left-hand side. That to me felt like a very smart, sensible play, which probably means he'll start Kirkes.
I honestly think the biggest part is going back against his own old team and stuff like that. I know we always talk about slots, being more pragmatic and stuff, but I do buy the whole Robertson argument over that. Not to mention, it did not look so hot in the Charity Shield game over the top on that right wing over there. And I know it wasn't all Kirkes' fault. Some of it was formation and how we lined up, and maybe partially because we didn't have our regular defensive midfielder duo and stuff, but I can see Robertson starting Frimpong on the right, Konate, Van Dijk, Ali, Jones, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, right? Gakpo, Ekitike, Mo. The rest kind of fills itself over here.
That's exactly.
Nick says, I think Wirtz is going to, the way he plays, I don't think he will, because he has that similar thing to McAllister in terms of, despite size, the way they're lower to the ground, and they're how they kind of they're strong enough to be able to hold themselves up, and they kind of know. I like how Wirtz almost slithers around the defender towards the end and gets away. And I do think actually Wirtz earns a lot of yellow cards for the opposing team, because of that motion, where he's almost slipping away from defender, he will get yanked down a lot, and those are clear yellows because it's a yank, the pull back down. So I think he will get us a lot of yellows in that sense. Tony's saying 3-1, Salah, Ekitike, and Gakpo. What is your prediction? What do you expect to see?
So I really want a clean sheet. I don't believe I'm going to see it. I'm going to say 4-1.
4-1.
4-1. They concede one somewhere. Not picking all of the, players along the way of who's going to score what goals, because I think they're going to come from all over. But I'm going to go 4-1. Salah gets on the score sheet. He always does. And I think they're going to look better at the back. I think that Virgil is coming off a sickness. I don't know that Virgil ever got out of third gear at any point in the entire preseason. And I think he just spent a week listening to English, talk shit and all the other radio shows asking, has Virgil van Dijk started to slow down? And I think when those type of things happen to players like him, they show up with like a Rolls Royce appearance. And I will not be surprised, mainly because I took him out of my fantasy team this morning, that he scores a goal and gets a clean sheet and is like absolutely imperious. I think it's another reason why you start Robertson at defense today, just to have as much stability in that back line as possible. And I'm just really excited to watch Frimpong run up and down the right flank. I'm really excited to watch the Anfield crowd react to his rapid pace. And I just think he's going to be, I think his bouncing like he's on a pogo stick, I think his dances, his giddy, I think it's all like, I think everything is going to work for him being a fan favorite. I can't wait.
I think so, yeah. Football Flashback says, put a bet on Ekitike. I bet you're happy, man, because, betting on preseason is pure sign of addiction over there. Ekitike for 2 assists and veers the score. Would you take a boring 1-0 right now? I mean, I'll take the 3 points. I would rather not take a boring 1-0 because the 1-0 means the last 15 minutes, I'm going to have a heart attack.
I was just going to say, can somebody explain to me what a boring 1-0 looks like? Because I've spent hours with Timucin, and in the last week, I spent more than I've ever spent at one time. And there is nothing boring about the stress levels this man can put himself through. If you think a 1-0 is something, wait till you're 40 minutes into a podcast and nobody can hear you, and his microphones don't work, or John touches his computer and his headset stops working.
Yes,
like there are stress levels. There are stress levels. So 1-0 win, no. And that is not for the health of Timucin. That is for Angie and the 2 pups.
Yes, and Layla's home too today. So she's visiting from college. So yes, everybody will be suffering for that. Cody False 9 is in the house. When is the next time? Yeah, don't even ask. I mean, basically this time next year, probably more than likely. It's kind of like an annual thing. We'll win again. And then we'll do the Charity Shield game again. So it will be like a tradition. We'll keep winning. We'll keep going to the Charity Shield games at Carragher's over there. That's the plan. What are you doing camping? You got to schedule these camp trips accordingly. That's why Kelly didn't show up. Got to plan all these trips accordingly in terms of like the 24-hour podcast. But the good news is it's not too late to donate. So that Q code right there on the right bottom, it will take you. I actually threw the GoFundMe in earlier. I'll do it again. So we get some more over here in the last 2 days to reach the goal. But yeah, it was tiring, but it was fun doing it on location. Tony says Tim Cam was awesome. I got to do better with that Tim Cam, man. I was looking at it afterwards, and I'm like, that's probably the worst part of the podcast is the Tim Cam over there. So I'm going to have to kind of like improve on that. And I'll definitely be a lot thinner, so I won't have 4 chins.
I think next year what we should consider doing, Tim, I lost your audio. I don't know if anyone else did, so it might just be
me. Should be fine.
Now you're back. I had lost your audio for a minute there, but it could be my earbuds. They might be losing power. I'm almost thinking next year, maybe what we should try to do, and I think with a little more prep and a little less sound problems at the beginning, we won't have as many problems. I almost feel like maybe next year we get 1 or 2 webcams set up. We get 1 or 2 webcams set up linked to the computers. So when we go to your computer, it's not like from the group shot to like a bang shot. So we can almost have like 1 or 2 of the webcams up. So we have a couple different angles that we can toggle back and forth.
Yes.
But that way, when we bring on guests, for everyone who doesn't know, we had 2 hours to set up, and we basically figured out what we were going to do with about 11 minutes to go.
Well, because not everything goes as planned. That's why now that we know what to do, we should probably like stick with it and not throw any curveballs in there. But Cody Falls 9 says, what percentage of your fans are female?
Not enough. So thank you very much for every female that's in the audience. Once you've met us and seen some of the chats we have, you understand why. We're trying to get better at that. But I'm hoping the segment we did with L'Oreal which was one of my favorite parts of the entire 24 hours when we covered the women's side. And I got educated on things I didn't really know much about. I'm hoping that increases some of our female followers. I thought Adriana overnight, the energy she brought for 4:15 in the morning. Granted,
Yeah, for
unlike
somebody
us, she
who had
was.
literally just brushed her teeth to go to bed, she had definitely had a lot of energy. So yeah, I mean, so that you guys know, those two will be regular part of the rotation over here coming up, because we will go back to like 5 days for the morning shows. So Laurel will be joining us every Tuesday to kind of got to give us a quick recap of the weekend and stuff like that. And we will get Adriana joining us as well in the mornings and get her take and stuff, because they were both like, yeah, that's why we do want to increase it. It's definitely too low for it to be. It's just way too low when you look at the numbers. It just does not make sense, especially when you're at like, like at these events and you see the fan percentages and stuff like that. It is definitely way too low. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, we do get crap here and there, but I don't give a crap about the crap we get for covering LFC women. It's a weird thing to me. I was talking about this too because Angie was asking why is that kind of a thing? Because a lot of people like rolling their eyes and stuff like that anytime we talk about LFC women. It's kind of like a weird concept to me because it's ultimately the same team, same club, same crest. Why people would not have the same passion is lost on me. Because, like I say, I grew up a Fenerbahce fan, and I think I talked about this on the live podcast too. I mean, they have all these other teams, and you root for every single freaking one. Doesn't matter. We rooted for freaking when we were watching freaking Trent play FIFA and shit like that, right? Like you root for stuff, even if you don't know anything about the sport. It's like rowing and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. You want your team to win. I just don't understand. I watch some sports I have no idea about growing up as a kid because it was Fenerbahce and I don't care. I wanted Fenerbahce to win kind of thing, like kid watching freaking a dude playing like ping pong and stuff because they even have a ping pong team. So I never get it in terms of like why people don't show the same affection and like rooting for you know the women's team. I've only been teased as a guest. I know what that means. Yes, you can't be a Scotsman if you're ranked. So I've been told. Nick. That's what we're
You
always
know,
told.
I've been told a lot of things over the years. I didn't listen to too many of them.
Yeah. Okay, let's answer this on the way out and we'll do our final predictions over here. Would you rather lose on match day 2 versus Newcastle but get Isak, or beat Newcastle and get Barcola? Well, that's a no-brainer. I take the latter.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the victory in a player any day of the week because I think it's a big match for us. I don't think it really matters because I don't think this club was ever interested in Barcola, and I don't think that Isak has any interest in staying at Newcastle. And to be totally fair, I don't think Newcastle at this point has interest in keeping him. I think everybody knows the writing's on the wall. The signing will probably be announced like the Wednesday or Thursday after the match. He won't be in the building, but we're going to get the 3 points anyways. I think Newcastle is going to struggle mightily. You don't realize Newcastle is in the Champions League and is starting an 11 that is every single player that was on the roster that could barely beat Everton at the end of last year when they needed a win. And Isak isn't there. I don't really disagree with that comment either, but I think the club want Isak. They want him for the long haul, and they will forget quickly about all these, maturations and what he did to get out of town. I think Isak is here by September 1st. I think he's playing the week or two after the international break. Hell, he might even make the bench for Arsenal, depending on what his fitness levels are at. But I think Isak will be a great signing. It just feels to me like the writing's on the wall. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. And Nick says Isak is a diva. And honestly, like some of this looks like that. It's not. And I think, but here's the thing. I think we're kind of feeding into what Newcastle wants it to look like at the same time. This is basically why this is taking so long. This is what Newcastle is working on to make them look better and therefore making Isak look worse, kind of a deal. I think as some of this stuff comes out, like what he was told, and the fact that I think if Newcastle brought a bunch of players in, right, the people they went after, they brought all these people in, I think then Isak will look a lot worse. at least to me from outside, or like maybe not to me, but to like a neutral fan, another club fan watching it, because they're like, hey, they're improving the team, you're bailing on them, kind of a deal. But the fact that they couldn't get anybody across the line until, like, like the Ramsey now, for example, but they went after all these people and they could not do it, is kind of like an odd ordeal. And I don't agree with that at all, because this stuff stays in the background over there. If you do a gentleman's agreement, Nick, and you violate it over and over and over again, you're just an asshole after a while. You're not a gentleman. And when you're a club doing that regularly, you just hurt yourself in the long run, because people know not to trust your gentleman agreement. I understand it means it's meaningless, but it's adds up and means something in the grand scheme of things afterwards.
But it wasn't just a gentleman's agreement by all accounts, and they're not denying it. But by all accounts, they're not denying that it was a gentleman's agreement. They're saying in a lot of ways that he had a extension offered to him, and then they brought in a new sporting director who said, no, we're not even going to discuss that. It's ridiculous. Why would the old people have thought to give you that? And that is what unsettles a player to the point. And if it's true that in May they had conversations that he was planning to leave, then there really is a scenario where I feel like look, no matter what, he looks terrible. He's on strike. He's done everything but hand in an official written transfer request. And honestly, I believe if this isn't done in a week, it will happen. He will put in a formal written transfer request if it is not done by next Monday or Tuesday. And I think at that point, you get to the whole arbitrators, and there's people that think he could get out of his contract. And like, Newcastle needs this money for PSR purposes. Everybody looks bad here, but ultimately Liverpool will get the guy, because to Nick's point, or to your point, Tim, if you look bad at making a gentleman's agreement and backing out on it, you know where else you look really bad? If you tell a player to agitate for a move and unsettle him to this level, make him public enemy number one, but then don't return with an actual bid that could win that, we look bad for putting Isak out and selling himself out like that. So I just think it's I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, guys that are 28 are going for 70 million. So
Yeah.
in Joker, it's the going rate. And we're not talking about a question mark. We're talking about arguably the most all-around striker in the Premier League, maybe one of the top 3 in world football. And this, to me, I've said it before, this feels like they're buying Mo Salah's like replacement now and letting him bet in for 2 years. But this deal feels like it's more about 2027. But let's not kid ourselves. We need this deal to get across the line. It's 100% needs to happen, because they've left it too late and we are short in attack, especially with another one leaving today.
Yeah, and I think that by itself says something. Somebody was asking earlier about the Bandok deal. I think the Bandok deal happening by itself says, yeah, I mean, you already showed on numbers by you diminishing, maybe not only Isak, there's going to be definitely I think another player coming in for the front. There almost has to be, because I don't think Isak, I mean, Nick is mentioning the injury record, not to mention he's probably not going to play for the first 3-4 weeks and stuff. You do need somebody else. So I think I'm hoping, you get Gay here across the line, and then you get like another attacker that's Fofana, for example, just to make you happy, and like Isak, and you have like the best transfer window of all time. Okay, so let's wrap up over here. You're going with 4-1?
I'm going to go with 4-1. Goals galore.
I'm starting the season with my very own special, the Timucin special, 3-1 at home. And I would not be shocked, unfortunately, if we concede the first goal. So, but more than likely, I mean, do stay tuned. If we're able to kind of coordinate it, being Friday makes it tricky, but we'll try to get live over there and see what happens. Gordo's going with a 9-0. But thanks to Gordo for his donation during the show, as well as like purchase of the shirts. If you have not done so, please, whether it's 5 or 10 or whatever, go into the GoFundMe. Let me throw the link again for those of you who received it 25 times now. For the 26th time, just go ahead and like throw it in there. Yes, Goda says he just had a large coffee. Pretty much on us. But my coffee is done, so I'll go get another one, and we'll see you guys soon, hopefully after a Liverpool win. Take care.